Brown stallion, named Braveheart by advocates who witnessed his death, died soon after being stampeded by a helicopter into a BLM trap pen. The Bureau of Land Management, or the BLM as they are commonly called, is currently engaged in a campaign of endless roundups of America's last remaining wild horses. The goal of this campaign appears to be to reduce America's wild horse population to a few token herds. I would expect the BLM to have the compassion and decency to leave such a small family alone. But the BLM allows the contractors operating the helicopters to decide which horses to round up. Unfortunately, the contractors, who are paid $250 to $300 for every horse they capture, are only concerned with maximizing their profits by rounding up every last horse in the herd management area. Using a helicopter to frighten the horses, BLM ran them into a trap pen. Braveheart lagged behind his family, seemingly torn between making a run for freedom and protecting his mare in full. Braveheart chose family over freedom, even though that meant following them into the jaws of the trap. It cost him his life. Once in the trap, Braveheart's child was forcibly separated from him and the child's mother. This was the last time this family will ever be together. Soon Braveheart's mare and his child will watch helplessly as Braveheart dies slowly next to them in the trap. Braveheart and his white mare are clearly and understandably disoriented and stressed by the loss of their freedom and the forced separation of their child. Without any concern for the anxiety these horses were experiencing as a result of his actions, this wrangler walks up and ties a saddle horse right next to Braveheart and his mare. In what appears to be an attempt to defend his mare in full against the other horse and to break his family free of the trap, Braveheart valiantly charged the bars of the trap pen and slammed his body into the fence, breaking his neck. Braveheart fell down and then struggled to his feet. While Braveheart slowly died, his child, unable to reach his father or mother, frantically spun in circles in the trap pen. Unable to raise his head, Braveheart collapsed and slowly died with his mare and child looking on. While standing over Braveheart, the BLM wranglers forced the mare away and then put her into a trailer. With her stallion dead or dying, and her child forcibly taken from her, the mare remained disoriented and stressed. 20 minutes after breaking his neck, the wranglers dragged Braveheart, covered by a tarp, onto the same trailer as his mate. It is unknown whether Braveheart is dead or still alive at this time. "40 minutes after Braveheart broke his neck, the truck carrying him drove off, leaving Braveheart's child alone in the trap pen, never to see his mother or father again. Although this roundup operation was on public lands, the advocates were threatened with a citation and/or arrest if they accessed a public road to follow the truck with Braveheart's body, even though there was no roundup operation going on at the time.
I'll give you one warning. After that, you get a citation. After that, arrest. Okay, that's just information.
Eventually, the advocates were allowed to leave. Back at the holding site, the advocates requested permission to access another public road to view the body and burial of Braveheart. This access was denied by Ben Noyes, a BLM wild horse and burro specialist, and the advocates were again threatened with a citation and/or arrest if they accessed the public road.
Ben, Ted.
This is Ben.
I'm here with Denise, and she's requesting access to take a look at the horse when it's buried.
Well, we're denying that.
I copy. Would you be available to talk to her after you're done?
No, we'll have a vet report wrote up by our aphis vet who's here doing a neocropsy on it. We'll take care of it that way.
Okay, so to answer your question further, if you decide to go
to see the burial,
yeah, you face citation and or arrest.
While filming the backhoe and Braveheart's body from a distance, dirt was piled atop the stallion next to mounds containing the bodies of numerous other victims of this roundup. True to form, a government-contracted wrangler moved a truck and trailer to block the advocates' view.
They are not being able to roam freely.
That Sarabad herd will be eliminated.
From there, it was on to a no-rules-apply American West of the late 1800s, full of men who carried guns on their hip and shot Mustangs like buffalo. If they couldn't kill them, they'd do their best to break their spirit.
We had a mass extermination of wild horses. They were killed by some of the most grisly methods imaginable, all basically to exterminate them to make way for livestock.
They go back to the early history of our country.
It's all right. Oh, you're a beautiful horse. I just wanted to hang out with the wild Surbats. They didn't have to gallop or perform for me. I just wanted to feel a little of what they feel.
free, you know, and you don't get to see very many really free things.
Well, I never been to Spain.
Hi there.
But I kinda like the music.
Okay.
They're intelligent and they learn very quickly.
Mary Ann Thompson knows the bloodline better than anyone. 450 miles from the wild Surbats, in the opposite corner of Arizona near the old rail town of Wilcox, she's quietly raised Surbat Mustangs taken directly from the herd 34 years ago.
They much prefer to be handled by one person.
She got them from a man who said he was saving them from drought. Wild horses are now federally protected, but the Bureau of Land Management, or BLM, is steadily reducing their numbers, and many experts fear that wild Surbats are on their way to extinction. With Mary Ann, These horses are safe. She says they have personalities like no others.
I think they have a sense of humor, actually, that most horses aren't supposed to. I had one filly that carried a stick around with her, much like a child would a doll, for months.
A 2-year-old Surbat filly named Doma de Sonora is a living mix of tame and wild that can never be bred out.
They do some strange things, but the things they do shows intelligence.
Got a nap going here, just so you know. Arms length, legs length, that applies too, legs length. You're coming back for more? You woke me up now. You're looking at yourself in the reflection of the glass, aren't you? You're saying, I'm the prettiest Mustang. Now you're looking at yourself in the mirror. You're beautiful. Yes, you are. Pretty. There were 2 wild Surbats who were letting me connect. A pregnant black mare with a white stripe on her forehead, and a young stallion that I guessed for her son.
You look at wild horses, you see that they have tremendous personalities. They really haven't been tainted by human beings. They haven't been subjugated by human beings. And a lot of our, the way we condition domestic horses is that we are the lead stallion, we are the lead person, and they will do as they're told. They will do exactly what we want them to do.
As the peace offerings and dialogue with the wild Surbats increased, I couldn't help but think of the second to last herd of Spanish Mustangs in Arizona, the Gilas. Wiped off their native and nearly wiped out, they were saved by one person, Karen Sussman. Distant cousins of the Surbats,
love my boys.
They once roamed together as the great herd of western Arizona.
There's approximately 35,000 horses, perhaps a few more. And there may be over 4 million cattle on the same rangelands.
And I've met with many BLM people. I know many of them. Some of them are very concerned about the wild horses, but then there's another group within the BLM who couldn't care less.
Kelly Grissom was the man in charge of the Surbats during the 90s, heading the Bureau's Kingman office, the holding pen for most of the wild horses and burros in the Southwest. The BLM is what was formerly known as the U.S. Grazing Service.
The U.S. Grazing Service, which was established in 1934 with the Taylor Grazing Act, had a policy of shooting wild horses on sight. So you've got an agency that is now, in 1971, given the mandate to protect an animal which they had actually been eliminating.
The BLM is an agency that didn't want this management.
The Old West still exists at the BLM. These are pictures they don't want the public to see. The young are left to flop in the sun, while the hired hands rope their corral mates, and that can take a while.
So for all intents and purposes, this is an agency that has no accountability whatsoever. So it's terribly cruel. These animals belong in the wild. That's where they should be.
I caught up with Kelly and Lee Higgins getting ready for a BLM adoption in Tucson. Higgins has been with the BLM for over 30 years. The adoption program has put many wild horses into good hands. But while speaking off the cuff, Lee Higgins confirms that some of the horses are still bought to be killed for slaughter.
We ship a lot of stuff to Europe. Meat, oysters.
Maybe around 90 or so. We don't really know. We haven't done an inventory.
I don't know a whole lot about them. I've heard rumor that they come from a Spanish bar blood, something like that.
He and his employees are seldom here themselves, and admittedly, their primary reason for contact with these animals over the past decade has been to remove them from the herd. The lack of scrutiny is ironic. After all, the Surbats are the closest wild herd to the Kingman BLM regional offices. Drive time, about 12 minutes.
Some people don't care at all, and other people really do.
The Surbats eat what it takes to stay alive. Kelly, who's managed the Surbats directly, isn't exactly sentimental about them.
Burros really became my passion. I like, they're smarter than horses.
The agency's public love for burros and what I'd witnessed at the Kingman Corrals was a contradiction that made me feel like I needed a break. I found just the right retreat in Oatman, Arizona, where burros roam the streets freely and the government stays out of their way, which might be a good idea. I worried about them, though, the same way I did about the Surbats. The BLM has proposed reducing burro numbers to just 2,700 nationwide. I was figuring something out. The visible herds, those most public, had the best chance of surviving. And once again, I'd felt a call to head north, where the big Spanish draft mixed bloods, the Wyoming McCulloughs, thrived. I bottomed out in Lovell, Wyoming, a Spanish Mustang crossroads. Everybody and their dog knew about wild horses here, especially the Reverend Floyd Schweiger.
How rounded that is. That's a definitely Spanish head.
Reverend Schweiger helped establish the prior range, and the animals, with markings strikingly similar to that of the Gilas, are like his grandchildren.
When I run through the deep dark forest long after this begun, where the sun would set, the trees were dead, and the rivers were none, and all for trace